Welcome back to the Human Algorithm Podcast, where we explore the stories shaping the future of business, technology, media, and most importantly, humanity. Today's episode is special. It's Pride Month, and we are honored to welcome someone whose work has created safe spaces and transformed lives in Singapore's LGBTQIA+ community for over 2 decades. Leow Yangfa, Executive Director of Oogachaga. From counselling to advocacy to public education and corporate partnerships like the Diversity Card campaign with Revolut and other businesses as well, Yangfa's leadership has helped make the invisible visible. And as a queer person, I'm very thankful for that. He's also a gunker to 5, we will talk about that later, a vegetarian by choice, and one of the fiercest quiet warriors I've ever met. But today we are talking about the heart behind them, the fears, the lessons, the parts of ourselves we hide, and why showing up fully matters more than ever. So Yangfa, before we dive in, I always ask this question of my guests. What's something people don't know about you, but should?
First of all, Sean, thank you so much, so very much. Very grateful to be here. Something people don't know about me. I was going to say the veggie part, but clearly you found that out about me.
I did my research.
Yeah. I was going to also say the gunker part. I suppose something I could say, I'm actually a closet dog lover. Not well, I suppose some people know that, some people don't.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I'm also a gunker to Harley and the late Gigi Energy. Yeah. So
why are you a closet dog lover? Why can't you come out with the dogs?
I suppose I don't often talk about it. Gigi Energy has passed away. Harley doesn't live with me. Technically, Harley is my nephew because he lives with my sister. My sister's family. So and yeah, in recent years, Harley has started appearing in my social media Instagram posts. So yeah, I'm slowly coming out as a dog gunker, I suppose. Yeah, I suppose it's not something I've been very conscious of. But you know, when you have a Harley's a golden retriever. So when you have a golden retriever, they just creep into your life.
We're not talking about humans here. We're talking about dogs.
A golden retriever, Harley the Goldie, Harley the baby Goldie on Instagram. Follow him. When you have a golden retriever, they just creep into your life. And yes, he's got a special place in my heart.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I used to have a dog also, but that's a story for another day. And I want to get into the work they have done, which is so important, right? When was the moment you knew this work, supporting the queer community lives, was what you meant to do, not just a job, but a life's calling?
Wow, I appreciate your use of the word calling. I mean, I personally might not use that word calling because calling to me sounds, again, that's just my understanding. Calling sounds a bit temporary or very sudden, you know. For me, I've always worked in the non-profit sector all my life. Prior to joining Oogachaga, I spent almost 8 years working for a suicide prevention agency, SOS, Samaritans of Singapore. And prior to that, I was in public service. So all my life, I've been working in social service, adjacent or related kind of work. And of course, now as Executive Director of Oogachaga, an LGBTQ+ charity, it feels like a culmination of the work that I've been doing in my professional career for the past 26 years, coming to 26 years. I started my first full-time job in the last century, actually, 1999. Some of your listeners may not remember the last century. So if you ask me whether there's actually a moment, I don't think there was. If anything, it was the decision to take on a professional education in social policy and social work. And maybe I've realized that, well, this is something I can do and I want to do. So it wasn't an epiphany or a moment or a calling. If it's nothing as grand or sexy as that, I'm sorry.
It's fine. Yeah. But I think you have seen this movement grow from support groups in small rooms to campaigns with global brands like Revolut, right? But what's the hardest thing to hold in your heart through it all?
You're alluding to how Oogachaga started, right? As a support group in somebody's living room more than 25 years ago. And of course, now we are proudly one of the most established LGBTQ organizations in Singapore. Not the oldest, but one of the most established. Yeah. Some of the viewers may see some of our home in-house design, actually designed by one of our staff, Alex, the stickers on Sean's laptop. So hardest, it's hard to say what it is, but sometimes it's the journey that we as a community here in Singapore have to take. And I say have to take is because I'm sure many of our listeners will know that the journey that we have taken so far in the past 20, 30 years has not been a smooth or linear one.
Yeah.
Along the way, there's often been many setbacks, disappointments, losses, and upsets as well. And to get through that and not get over that, but get through it and carry our lessons, our courage and resilience, and just keep going. That for me is the joy and also the hard part of doing it. So of course, along the way, I mean, whether it's staff or volunteers or activists or community leaders, we lose them along the way. And at the same time, we lose some along the way. And of course, along the way, we also gain more supporters and allies and new leaders, so on and so forth. So that journey, yeah.
Yeah, sounds like a very eventful journey. So the diversity card campaign that you have with Revolut is in its third year now, and it's beautiful. And I think this was the card last year.
There you go.
And I don't think the new one is out yet.
It will be the same design. Yeah.
But it's how do you hold both visibility and safety in the same breath? Especially in a climate where being out can still feel so dangerous.
I mean, the idea of visibility is, I'm glad you're bringing it together side by side, right? Visibility and safety. Again, when we talk about that, it's not just for us, the community organization. When we partner with corporate businesses as well, we also have a responsibility to have conversations about their visibility as well as their safety as well. And I just use our experience with Revolut as I would say, a very positive case study, right? When we first started a conversation to start a collaboration with them, for them to bring to Singapore the first ever rainbow-themed diversity physical card, it was something that, admittedly, I was a little bit nervous and hopeful about. And very fortunately, there was a key member of staff in Revolut who was willing and able to sit down with us months in advance to have a conversation, to plan, to talk about ideas, to talk about how we execute, all with visibility and safety as a top consideration. So with that process, I think I would like to say we have actually very successfully executed this. This year will be our third year. Last year, they brought in a second charity partner as well, and we continue to be the charity
greenhouse,
partner.
right?
The greenhouse, yeah, that was last year. This year, it will be us. And again, if just to trumpet blow our modest horn a little bit, if you go into the Revolut app and you look at the charities, if I'm not wrong, I checked it recently. We are the charity in Singapore that has raised the largest amount. I mean,
Good job.
So yeah, and considering we will be there for 3 years, right? So it's something that we're extremely proud of as an organization. We're also very proud of this collaboration with Revolut. As I mentioned, that process of ensuring visibility and safety for both parties, and also the support. I'm feeling support of all our donors, individuals as well. Things that we talk about when it comes to safety will be, language. In the first year, we weren't very sure about whether we should call it an LGBTQ rainbow card because that might attract certain unnecessary attention. Yeah. So we landed on the idea of a diversity card, which kept 3 years in a row, right? And diversity, well, it might mean different things to different people, but as a word, as a concept, it is hopefully universal. Diversity in the workplace, diversity in the community, diversity in all our lives. So that was something that was important in terms of the messaging and the publicity, the visual images as well. We're very careful not to use, to have individuals or people associated with the card, because it's really about the card and getting people into the app. And even down to the details of, the card will be sent to people in addresses, and there were also arrangements made to allow people to for some requests to have names used that were sensitive to their gender identity, for example. So certain arrangements have been made as well behind the scenes. So of course, it's not something that is easily managed, because it is obviously as a fintech business, a Revolut, they have certain considerations as well. But these were the conversations that we were able to have with the staff here in the Singapore team, which was incredibly useful as well. Again, I know we're here talking about businesses, but also talking about the human element as well. So that for me has been exceptionally helpful as well, to have a charity and a multinational fintech business to partner, but at a very local human level as well. I mean, a number of times I've sat with the staff, we've had meetings, and I know everybody dreads business meetings, right? But when it comes to these meetings that we have, very intentional, very purposeful, very focused as well. So it's about, okay, what should we do? What do we need to make this happen or not make that happen? What considerations we have? Like I said earlier, visibility is a given, but safety as well. Absolutely important. And we even got in touch with internally on the part of Revolut, also kind of highlighted that it's important to have comms ready should there be certain backlash or certain what I call uninvited attention from the media drama, just to be ready, and to have like FAQs prepared, all that. Now all that needs to be taken into consideration when you have a brand like Oogachaga and when you have a global brand like Revolut to collaborate so openly, and I like to say that has contributed to the success of the collaboration over the years.
Yeah, such intricate details that needs to be worked out, right? And Oogachaga's origin story starts with survivors of conversion therapy reclaiming their voice. How do you honor that painful legacy while building a future, rooted in healing and hope?
Yeah, I'll start with acknowledging that some of our co-founders back then, more than 25 years ago, thought they were attending therapy. They thought they were attending support groups. But of course, now we know none of it was therapeutic in nature. If anything, it was traumatic in nature, of course. That's our so-called founding story. So first and foremost, Oogachaga has and will always be a counselling support agency. We are a service provider. So it continues in the work that we do today. We've got a team of professional counsellors. We provide face-to-face professional counselling services. We also have trained volunteers who provide support through WhatsApp and email counselling as well. Currently, we also run a youth program where we're supporting LGBTQ+ youth in a face-to-face setting. And then where needed, they may come in for more one-to-one work as well. So that really is in the core of our work: support, service, and psychosocial support as well. Along the way as well, we also understand that a lot of the people we work with across the rainbow spectrum, may also have healthcare needs, legal needs, and other kind of support services as well. So we do connect them. And again, this is where the ecosystem of community organizations that we have in Singapore is so powerful, right?
Yeah.
It should never be the case where Oogachaga staff and volunteers, we do everything. We shouldn't, because the people we work with do not live in a vacuum. The people we work with, members of our community, live in the community.
Yes.
So they also have connections with other groups, other individuals, other systems, other ecosystems, other agencies as well. So we connect them where we can. So we're also very proud of our various collaborations and ongoing networking opportunities with different community organizations here in Singapore as well. We should not exist in isolation or in a vacuum.
Yeah, that's so important. We often talk about chosen families in queer communities, right? And can you tell me a time about your chosen family help you in a way where your biological one couldn't?
Just on the note of language, actually, the idea of chosen family, or I'm trained as a social worker, so in our professional language, we talk about families of origin, so the families we come from, and also we talk about families of choice or families of creation as well. So the idea of a chosen family or a created family is actually nothing new. It's something that we know people living out there in the community all over the world do, right? Families we come from and families we create and choose. So for me, I've been very, very fortunate. I've always had a very supportive family of origin. I suppose supportive in as much as I have had to come out in a certain way. Acceptance wasn't immediate over time. It happened over time. So the sense of rejection I felt was probably, say, milder than what many of our other community members feel as well. So I felt that I've never really had to turn away from my family of origin to create a family of choice. However, having said that, along the way as a working adult, I have been very fortunate to have been surrounded in the workplace, actually, in professional settings, to work in environments where I am out at work to colleagues and not be rejected and not be treated differently and not be spoken of badly. So that for me is something I'm so grateful and thankful for, and I don't take for granted. And I can name you, obviously in Oogachaga, but in my previous workplaces as well. That has been my workplace experience. So you could say in my family of choice in the workplace, that has been so helpful, and that gives me confidence to perform the work that I'm paid to do.
That's beautiful. Right? Yeah. And we celebrate Pride every year. And this year, with what's happening in the US, what's happening around the world, with a lot of sponsors pulling out of LGBTQ parades, right? What does Pride mean to you today after all these years of advocacy, resilience, and quiet resistance? Has that definition changed over time?
I hope not, because for me, what pride means to me at a personal level is it's about community, it's about love and support, it's about acceptance, it's about family, whether it's families of origin, families of choice and creation. It's just about connections, it's about collaborations, lots of words starting with C, and all that still matter. It all still matters. And pride, of course, is also about resistance, about protest, not always in a kind of violent way, but it's really about standing up to injustice, standing up to what's wrong, standing up for what's right. So all that should still matter as well. So that for me, that's what pride is about.
Yeah, I love that. I think also pride for me, it's always been, I know in Singapore especially, it's always been about like protest, right? Because of Hong Lim Park, where Pink Dot is. But I also think it's also a gathering of people who find it safe to be around each other. And that safe space is not something that we can take for granted.
Yep, that's right. And so pride is about safety. And let's not forget the meaning of pride. The opposite of pride is shame. Because for many queer people, right, either we grow up in environments of shame or we are shamed for who we are and what we are. Maybe we are often surrounded by language of shame. And along the way, many of us might also have internalized shame as well. So that's what pride is about. Pride is the opposite of all of that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And let's talk about joy. Queer joy is revolutionary too, right? So what's your one moment of queer joy from the past year that made you tear up, laugh out loud, or both? Are you ready to make a real impact? The Human Algorithm Podcast is where technology, business, and DEI intersect, sparking conversations that matter. As a self-funded content creator and a proud queer, gender-fluid journalist, I'm here to amplify voices that challenge the status quo. But this journey needs your support. Sponsoring the Human Algorithm Podcast means aligning your brand with purpose-driven storytelling while supporting LGBTQIA+ owned businesses. Your sponsorship helps fund vital projects, including speech therapy for my daughter, podcast hosting, and raising awareness for inclusive mental health care. Let's collaborate to drive meaningful change. Reach out to me via email, socials, and my Substack.
Joy goes hand in hand with pride, obviously, right? And I don't know if I can, I'm going to be a bit sneaky. I don't know if I have one specific moment that I can describe for you, but queer joy is something I've been reading about, and certainly in our social and counselling literature, there's a lot of course, heavily influenced by our community as well, right? The idea of introducing queer joy in the professional work that we do. So, for example, in some of my recent counselling sessions with clients, I've begun to be a bit more intentional and deliberate in working with people to identify, hey, that's a moment of queer joy.
Yeah.
Let's sit there and acknowledge it and identify it. And sometimes it's really about the context of, we're often surrounded by so much pain, shame, rejection, discrimination, persecution that we forget, or rather it's easier to see all that negative, real pain around us and shame, that's sometimes harder to find the joy. So it's maybe it's just me trying to fine-tuning my own and my clients, our counseling clients' ability to kind of go, hang on, that is actually queer joy. Let's take a moment and celebrate it, acknowledge it, celebrate it, because it's ours to own. Because if we don't own it, if we don't celebrate it, other people may not do it for us.
Yes.
So that for me is my sneaky, indirect way of answering your question. In that sense.
No, I love it. It's claiming your own narrative, right? It's so
A
important.
narrative of queer joy.
Yeah. And as a social worker, you work with people at their most vulnerable, through grief, confusion, and fear. How do you refill your own emotional cup? What grounds you?
What grounds me? In your intro, you mentioned that I'm a gunkle. Of course, my relationship with my nieces, my sister's daughters, that for me is grounding. Additionally, my relationship with animals. It's going to sound a bit cliche, but of course, Harley comes into the picture as well. The gorgeous golden retriever I spoke about earlier. I think he's going to be an internet celebrity after this. I hope he is. But of course, also when it comes to my decision to take holidays, right? I mean, there's a special place I go to in northern Thailand, in Chiang Mai, where I visit a sanctuary for elephants. And I don't know, this might sound a bit weird for some people who may have never been in close proximity with an actual elephant before. It is a magical experience. It's magical in that elephants are the largest land mammals in Asia. The Asian elephant is worshipped and venerated. And at the same time, there's so much going on. I could talk a lot about elephants, but really about for me, just being in TLDR, being in commune with nature, being with what is natural, and acknowledging that there is a bigger world out there for all of us. That's natural, that's there for us to enjoy and preserve and protect, because at the rate things are going in this scary world we live in, it may not be there forever, which also means there's also a certain responsibility for us to preserve and look after some of this. So onward, nature.
And animals.
And
dogs
animals, in particular.
Elephants.
Dogs and elephants and whatever, connection you have. Because, it's really about a language, it's about connection. Dogs speak a different language from us. Elephants speak a different language from us. And yet, we also can maybe connect at a certain level. And that takes us to a higher level as well. Elephants are definitely a higher being than us. Dogs are definitely a higher being than us as well, although they seem like they're subservient to us. Actually, they're not. And for those of us who may also like cats, I think cat parents and cat lovers will know cats are, we are slaves to cats. They are definitely a higher being than us.
And I think one thing that struck me last year when I went to Pink Dot was the amount of young people that I saw coming, even with their parents as well. And for you, the young people you meet today, especially queer youth, right, in Singapore, what gives you hope when you listen to them? And what keeps you up at night? What are you concerned about?
Wow, that's like a double barrel kind of What gives me hope? What keeps me up at night? I'll talk about what keeps me up at night. Lots of things keep me up at night. Two, I was actually just thinking about this last night on the way home. One of the things that do keep me up at night is the survival of Oogachaga, of course, as an organization, as a service provider, survival in terms of, let's be a bit direct here, whether we have enough funds to keep running, right? And this
because you're not receiving funds from the government.
We don't get any government grants. Of course, as a charity, we do raise funds, we do provide services, so we do charge fees. So as a steward of the organization, that is also my responsibility to ensure continuity. So again, at the risk of sounding a bit pedantic, yes, that's one of the things that do keep me up at night. Of course, other charity leaders may or may not have similar considerations. But again, it's also a bit more than that. It's also slightly beyond the survival of the organization as well. But it's also what are we doing? Does it continue to be relevant? And again, back to the ecosystem of all these organizations in Singapore as well. Are we working in a way that makes sense? Are we still relevant to the community? I mean, as a social worker, one of the painful realizations that I think we need to have is that in a perfect world, social workers should need to exist. In a perfect world, we should need to have an organization that caters to the LGBTQ plus community, because in a perfect world, all of us should be able to access services out there, mainstream services, without having to go to an LGBT organization, a trans organization, a women's organization. There should be true equality. But of course, we know it's an imperfect world we live in. One other thing that keeps me up at night will be, unfortunately, the threat of violence to our community, whether it's all over the world, but a lot closer to home here in Singapore as well. Again, maybe it's not lost on some of the listeners as well. Pink Dot recently shared that they had received death threats. Oogachaga has as well, and not just this year, but over the years.
Yeah.
So that for me is something else. And I worry clearly not just for my own safety, but the responsibility I bear, the safety of our service users, our clients, our staff, our volunteers, and our supporters as well. So that is something that's about two things. I thought that's enough to keep me up at night.
Yeah.
Your other question about my hope, my hope for young people, right? I mean, hopefully by definition, because people are younger or youth, already they embody hope, right? But very specifically, one of the things that I've observed over the years is the confidence with which young people bear in terms of describing and asserting and affirming their identities. Whether it's in the introduction or in the words and language they use, on the way they read up and talk about themselves. We see that in our counselling room. We see that when on social media as well. So actually, I mean, just to link in, segue into talk about Revolut as well. So this year, actually, they're going to be introducing online digital cards as well. So the physical card will still look the same, the 6-color rainbow, but online there will actually be different color, different designs on the pride flags, precisely because we want to acknowledge that different people will adopt different pride flags that are more in line with their queer identity. So that for me is something that's very hopeful as well, the confidence, and hopefully that youthful confidence also translates into actions and behaviors and taking our community forward as well.
Yeah. And I think the part they talk about, like the safety part, I think it's not just one-off and it's always ongoing. I remember last year, because I was a business leader with Pink Dot and I was raising funds, and I got my gym, Trapeze Red Club, to sponsor. And the day after they were announced as one of the sponsors for Pink Dot, somebody and the gym hung the pride flag outside their premises, right? And there was a mirror behind that where they hung the pride flag. And the day after they announced that they were sponsors of Pink Dot, somebody went past the flag and tore it down, broke the mirror. And it was devastating to know that such violence do happen. And I think it is, and we shouldn't condone such violence.
We should absolutely not condone, but also absolutely condemn as well. Sure, some people might say, oh, but nobody was hurt, what? But the fact that a few things, right? Somebody felt that they could do that. So the audacity to have the thought that they could do that, the audacity to actually carry out the act of going to private property and destroying private property as well, right? And clearly whoever or the people who do that clearly know the symbol and the meaning behind the pride flag. So it's very deliberate, very targeted as well. I mean, in Singapore, unfortunately, we do not have specific legislation about hate crime, but certainly, again, of course, in the past as well, we've had more outright threats against our community, whether it's to stab us or shoot us or kill us. But the threats, even though you can say, nobody was hurt yet, but the fact that people out there have the audacity to not just have the thought, but to put those thoughts into words and to put it in front of a camera or in writing as well. So that is definitely to be, condemned. And I wish we could have more people in positions of power, maybe in holding higher office in this land, to come out and condemn some of these acts.
That's so important. Let's end with this. If your inner child could see you right now,
Inner
ganker,
child.
leader, survivor, change maker, what do you think the younger Yangfa will say?
The younger Yangfa, how young? The younger Yangfa might look at this.
Always 21.
Always
21.
21. Okay, let's have a slightly younger version of Yangfa. Look at where Yangfa is now in 2025. I think that version of Yangfa might be absolutely in shock and disbelief and probably thinking, what? Who? No, you're kidding me. This is not happening because, why are you showing me misinformation, right? I mean, obviously back then we didn't have the language, but I think that much younger version of me will look at what I'm doing now and probably will not believe that I've had all these opportunities. I've had all these wonderful connections and networks and activities so for the adult to say back to the child is just kind of don't be surprised at what can happen along the way, and always learn and remember to be grateful. The younger child might after he picks up the jaw from the floor might break into tears, and then might kind of go, okay, a lot of hard work to be done, and then maybe one day I'll get there. So get over the shock and disbelief and just get on with it.
Look at how far you have come.
Just get on with it. It doesn't happen overnight, obviously. And of course it comes with a lot of support from the people around me as well. I mean, a cliche that is often used, which I will use again. I mean, I'm not very tall. I'm quite small size. People on the camera might see how small, but I do really stand tall on the shoulders of many, many people. Many people around me, many people who have come before me as well. I'm not the first generation of leadership Oogachaga. I'm not even one of the co-founders. Maybe third or fourth gen leadership. But again, all the work that's been built up by the co-founders, by the first, second, third generations of leaders, and of course the many, many volunteers that we have and have had in Oogachaga. So I stand tall on their shoulders. So I can't do, I really, hand on my heart, I really can't do what I'm doing now. We can't do what we are doing now without all the work that's been put in by the people before us in the past 25 years.
Yangfa, thank you for being here today, for your work for our community, and as you said, the previous generation of leaders at Oogachaga as well. Your vulnerability with us, sharing, opening your heart today. So this episode isn't just a Pride Month special, right? It's a reminder that everyday people like you are doing the hard, invisible work of, building belonging. And for those listening, if you ever felt like you didn't fit in or like you had to shrink yourself to be safe, know this. There's nothing wrong with you, and there's a whole community fighting for a right to exist and to thrive. You can support Oogachaga by donating through the Revolut Diversity Card campaign. So this is not the card this year, but it's the same similar one, right?
Yep.
Yeah, but this card will be very useful in going towards a long way in helping the queer community get help they need. Because visibility is powerful and support is what keeps it sustainable. Thanks for being here again, Yangfa, and as always, keep rewriting the algorithm. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Pleasure.